What's going on, guys? This is Jordan with Far Side of the Pod. Today, I will be doing a slight breakdown and a spoiler review of a new movie, Until Dawn. Today, me and my wife went and watched this movie. We are big fans of the video game, and like I just said, for those who don't know, Until Dawn is a video game that came out in 2025. It is a PlayStation exclusive made by Supermassive, and it quickly rose to popularity, becoming a PlayStation classic almost instantly. Now, recently they released a remake of the game. For those who haven't played it originally, it is now out to make it look better, new decisions, new outcomes, and man, the remake is just as good as the original, of course. And I will say, as a fan of the franchise, this movie killed it, in my opinion. And I'll discuss why, and here we go. So we start out the movie, and it starts out kind of dark as we see like a hand coming out of the ground and the girl trying to pull herself out, seeing that this monster is chasing her. And as she gets out, she pretty much gets stopped and dragged back in. It cuts the title card of the movie, and we meet our new friends here. We got Clover, who was the main character. Then we got Max, who was the former boyfriend of Clover, but he is still her friend in the friend group, and he's protecting of her, and he obviously still has a thing for her, but he knows that they're not really together, but he respects that. We have Megan, who is the psychic friend. She can sense and feel things that other people can't, and honestly, she's like, the way she's predicted in the movie is like she's actually true to be a psychic per se. Like, she knows what she's talking about. She's just not one of those typical horoscope type of chicks. She knows what she's talking about. Then we got Nina, who is kind of like, forgive me for saying this, kind of like the slutty friend. I'm guessing it doesn't really touch up too much on her character. It just, they make a joke eventually to her in the movie and towards Abe, who is her boyfriend, that every 3 months she gets with someone else. And of course, her and Abe has been together for 3 months, and they make a joke about leaving him before or after the trip. But Clover, my bad, not Clove, eventually drags all her friends on a trip, and that's where we start off with them. And unbeknownst to them, they're kind of retracing the steps of Clover's missing sister, Melanie, who has been missing for about a year. And they're there just trying to, well, I guess she is really there, just trying to see if she can find any clues to find her or anything, which leads us to, they stop at like this really old school gas station where the attendant is played by Peter Stormare, who plays Dr. Hill in the original Until Dawn game. Now, she meets him as she comes in and gets a cup of coffee, and they talk for a minute. He discussed that he's been there for years and years, and probably years to come, until even probably after he's gone. And she eventually goes to try to leave, and she couldn't refuse but to ask if he had seen her sister. And he doesn't really say that he did, but he says that she's gone missing, hasn't she, pretty much. And expresses that she disappeared in Glore Valley, which is just down the road, which eventually leads us to the group coming to this stop here as they are in this piss-pouring rain storm, and they can barely see in front of them. They're all starting to trip out, and Clover is trying to convince them to turn around, and Abe said that they had turned around multiple times already, that he wasn't before. Then as they wasn't going to again, and as they are arguing, they end up in, like, the rain just suddenly stops, and they end up outside of this welcome center here. And they try to figure out what they're in. They make a couple jokes about, like, they try to make Abe seem kind of dumb because he's like, what is this called? I know this phenomenon. And Matt's like, yeah, me too, I just don't know what it is. And then Abe's kind of saying, it's a water wall. And he's like, I feel like that's kind of made up on the spot. And he's like, no, it's not. It's real. But they eventually decide to make their way inside of the house and look around, see if they can find anyone, any sign of anyone, a phone, anything, because they're not getting receptions. And well, when they walk in, there's pretty much nothing there. It's all dusty. there's a calendar that says like 96 or 95 or something like that on it. And eventually Abe finds this board. It looks like a post-it board, and it's got missing people posters on it, and he starts pulling off papers to reveal all these missing people posters, and eventually shows Melanie, Clover's sister, and they notice that all these people are missing, and it's all in the same area. And as they start to try to piece together things, Nina mentions that the hourglass that was in the living room that it shows just flipped and is now pouring. We eventually start to hear footsteps, and she calls out to Abe, and they go back to where the post-it board was, and Abe had been killed. He's pretty much chopped in half. His body falls down to the floor. Nina sees it, and she runs. Well, the Max, Megan, and Clover are downstairs in like this basement, but it comes to be like there's windows in the basement and everything, so they're like underground. But then they hear the footsteps and the screaming of Nina upstairs, and as Max goes up to see what's going on, he sees that Nina had been taken out, and they try to run away from the guy. Eventually the guy comes down. They try to throw him off. Max tries to hit him. It doesn't work. He eventually kills the rest of them off, and suddenly they're back. They're back to where they were before. Nina's signing her name in this welcome book, and it's where time resets itself. Every single time that they die, they get reset at the same exact moment where Nina is signing her name in this welcome book. And she starts to notice, previously she noticed that these are like the signatures that are already in it is of the same people, just progressively gets worse. And after they wake up here, you see Megan, who the psychic friend, is kind of having these, like, you can kind of tell she seems uneasy, almost sickly, and next thing you know, she starts contorting, and she like flies, like gets dragged into the room, or flies, or walks. I can't fully remember, but when she gets in this room and when they find her, she's floating in the air, and she's pointing at all these pictures of these wanted people, not wanted people, but missing people, and as she points at them, she starts talking as them, like their voice starts coming through her. And then she looks over at Clover and says, "Don't let him in," and it snaps her neck and kills her. The front door starts banging, and they eventually, for some reason, open the door, revealing across the street there's like this old, broken down looking cabin house looking thing. And it's got graffiti on the outside, and I think on the door it says "Fuck the Glore Witch." And Clover eventually gets picked up and slung across the road by this invisible force ghost-esque thing, and it drug into the house. When she gets in and wakes up, she sees this old lady, and she's in a chair, but there's mask surrounding her. It's like kind of resembling the Psycho mask, who they were attacked by in the house. By my apologies, I didn't bring that up before. But he's kind of wearing the same mask from the game. It's just a little modified to fit the movie. But in this room where she is with this old lady sitting in this chair, there's all these different looking porcelain looking masks. And the old lady eventually, she's watching TV, and it's talking about a mine colony, and the shafts crumbling, and it's falling in on itself. The old lady then eventually gets up and makes her way towards Clover as she tries to walk out, and then puts the oxygen mask on her, and it possesses her. Then she goes and kills the rest of her friends who had made it, and she then gets hit by a car driven by the psycho, or the guy wearing the psycho mask, and she then wakes up. They then are boarding themselves in this bathroom. Pretty much, they've got like stuff barricading the doors, and they go into this bathroom and they're trying to discuss what they saw in the house. I believe Clover saw something to do with the doctor or something to do with a sanatorium, and they're kind of discussing it. I can't fully remember that part, so don't hate me completely. It'll give you more of a reason to watch this movie, but Abe eventually goes to the water in the sink, and Megan says the water doesn't work because she tried earlier and nothing came out. But when he does it, water does come out. He then grabs the glass that is sitting on the sink and fills it with water and drinks it. Everybody's watching because they've now been here for a couple days without any food and without any water, so they're all dying of thirst. So eventually they all take a drink, and as they're discussing, Abe starts to cough and gag, and eventually he spontaneously combusts, and one after one they start to explode. And like the crazy part that I thought it was insane is Megan started like exploding in various spots. Like her leg exploded, then like her stomach exploded, then eventually her head. Then, of course, the last two people that didn't explode was Clover and Max, and of course they eventually exploded. Then they go back down to this underground area that they had found earlier, and they're all sitting there trying to find clues, per se. Oh, I forgot something. My apologies. I didn't conclude the story with the herpes. Well, I told she got killed from the hit, but in between this time, she kind of runs into the doctor, and he says something to her I can't fully remember, and he kills her. And she then wakes up, and they're in this underground area, and they're trying to find clues, and she finds like name tags of his from the sanatorium, and they find like a map that shows like the original map of the mining colony, and they now know that the mine colony had collapsed and everything, and they now realize that the house that's underground with the windows they are in is a former house that had collapsed into the ground. Well, Abe talks about how, well, he eventually realizes and remembers that he recorded something, and as he pulls out his phone, he remembers, well, he sees that he recorded a lot of things. And it shows a couple videos. One, it shows Clover here with this bug looking, almost looks like a chicken claw talon peeking out of her face, and eventually looks like it's getting worse, and it cuts out to a different video. And like I said, it shows a couple more videos. I can't fully remember what happened in the other ones. I think it showed it showed a monster in one of them, and that monster is to be revealed as a Wendigo. If you don't know, until dawn, the monsters in the video game were Wendigos. Believed that in the game, that if someone had resorted to cannibalism on this mountain that they were on, they would turn into a Wendigo, and they'd be cursed to be on this land forever. Well, in this movie, it is explained that over time, they are slowly, day by day, turning into a Wendigo. And it's kind of shown that you can see they're getting weak. You could see, like, Mary's hair is falling out, and like even a chunk of her head or something like that comes with it at one point. And there, you could just tell like their veins are starting to be visible, and then they try to figure out how long they've been there, and they then realize they had been there for 13 days because they go back to the book that Nina was signing at the beginning of the movie and notice that they had signed it 13 times, and that's when they also realized that nobody has made it past 13 days. Well, then they start this trek, and, you know, with Wendigos, we eventually find out that Melanie, Clover's sister, has sadly turned into a Wendigo, and, you know, which kind of, you know, makes sense after it's been told that the longer they're there, they turned into a Wendigo. And they eventually find this way into the sanatorium. A bunch of things are happening left and right. I'm not going to tell you completely everything in those parts. And you eventually get to where Clover finds Dr. Hill's office. And he eventually comes in and locks the door behind him and reveals, like, he's been studying her and he's been watching and pulling the strings all along. And as she's talking, she noticed the water is dripping from the ceiling and his coffee cup is very close to it. So as he's talking and kind of having this monologue moment, she grabs the cup and slides it onto the water, letting the water drop a couple times through it. He picks up the coffee cup, drinks from it, continues, and eventually explodes like they did when they drank the water. And on the tape on his desk, as he was talking, like I said, it showed Clover's psychiatric report, but it also shows my boy Joshua Washington's psychiatric report. If you do not know, Joshua Washington is Rami Malek's character from the Until Dawn game. Which means, going back to my previous picture, that Dr. Hill from the Until Dawn movie is Dr. Hill in the Until Dawn game. Then, as the movie ends and the people make it until dawn finally, it cuts back to Dr. Hill's office and it shows a screen and it shows a snowy cabin that sorta, not saying it fully does, but it resembles the lodge from the game. And to me, solidifies that this movie was a prequel to the Until Dawn game. And man, I have to admit, I loved the movie. The movie, to me, like, yes, I love the story of the game so much that I would like to see it live action, but here's the thing, is they came in with an original story. Yeah, it can have its spots where people don't like it. Yeah, it can have its spots where it misses. And, you know, there's going to be people like me who's going to love it no matter what. But, of course, we're all going to have the people who just talk shit about it just because it's a video game movie and people like to hate on video game movies. But the movie, to me, holds up as its own thing, but also holds up as a prequel to the game, leaving off with that kind of, like, slide-in of the cabin at the end of the movie, which makes sense because you also hear Dr. Hill's whistle as the van pulls up to the cabin. So to me, it's official. The game is the predecessor. Well, the movie's the predecessor to the game. And so my full review of this, so character-wise, I think character-wise, of course, I can agree with the people that these characters are one-dimensional. They have a purpose for this movie, though. That's why I think that these characters are great. Only because, to me, this type of movie... Because, I mean, if we were doing the exact game, all these characters are one-dimensional. Because they have to have a specific point in this story. I mean, think about it. When we talk about Josh is the brother. Actually, now I think about it, because they're not very one-dimensional in the game. My apologies. Like Josh, he's the brother of the sisters who went missing and died, and he eventually is then revealed as this. He's not a killer, but he's trying to really prank his friends that just turns out bad, and these characters just have one purpose for the movie, like the psychic friend and the final girl energy, then the boyfriend. And then it's not like the typical boyfriend trope, but it's like it still kind of is. And you got the guy who's with the friend group but kind of not with the friend group. Then you got the girl that everybody drools over. So since the characters are one-dimensional, it does take down a couple of points, but the way they fit this movie, I will give character-wise an 8 out of 10. Story-wise, I think the story was very great. I think it was original. I think that for it to be a Until Dawn title, I think it makes sense, especially with like the different ways the different ways that they were getting, you know, gone after with the Wendigos and the witch and the psycho, and how that every time they died, they just relived the moment. And it's like the reverse of the game, because it's like typically when you play a game and someone dies, you come back to life, but you don't in the game. But in the movie, it's like in real life, you die, you can't come back. But in the movie, they have it like if they die, they do come back. So it's kind of like a cool reverse. And I think that it plays very well. The only part that I really wish there was more of has to do with the sister. I wish they would have had a little bit more of emotion with the sister, because think about the storyline with the sisters from the video game. It's very emotional and very good telling, because it plays into the story of Josh and the reason why he did what he did. And that's the one thing I wish that they would add more, but it's still not bad. I give the story a 9 out of 10. I give the scares a solid 10 out of 10, because, I mean, what did you expect to come from this movie? I mean, it's a horror video game adaptation, and you're going to have the jump scares, because that's what you got to have for the factor. And I think that they placed the jump scares in this movie well. I jumped a couple times, and, you know, I love when I get caught off guard, and it definitely caught me off guard a few times. So I definitely give the jump scares a 10 out of 10. And they had the creep factor. The guy that played the psycho did really well. The witch did really well. And the Wendigos were spot on. The Wendigos were very, very reminiscent to the video game, in my opinion. And I think they killed it. So for the scare factor, I give it a 10. So overall, I give this movie a flat 9 out of 10. You know, there's a couple things that can be fixed and a couple things that would be cool to go through, but I think it did its job and it serves its purpose. And I don't really understand the hate behind this movie, but everybody has their own opinion and it's theirs to have. Now, to the people who say that if you're a fan of the game and don't watch this, I think that's fucking bullshit. And I don't mean to call out people who I like in these reviewers who say that, but to me it's like if you have played the game and you paid attention to the details through this story and the little snippets that we have of Josh and the cabin and the curator coming back, it's just like, it's proving that this is a prequel to the game that we love. And if this is eventually leads them to do the story of the game, I am stoked. I would love it. But if not, cool. It still takes this as a prequel to the game. And I think that's the way we should look at it as the fans of the game. I think these people who say that if the fans of the game don't like it, I don't think they've played the game. And I think they need to reevaluate what they think and rewatch it or something, because I'm a true fan of the game, and I love the movie. So, but yeah, that was my very rough review and sort of breakdown of the movie. I know I got a little detailed into it at first and kind of broke off towards the end, but I didn't want to give y'all completely too much. But I did tell you what happened. But I want y'all to watch this movie, give it a thought, you know, comment and tell us what you think about it. I personally fucking love this movie as a fan of the game. I hope they do more. I'd love to see like the Quarry movie, or hell, another Until Dawn game is something. Bring it to me. And Supermassive, if you hear this, man, I've got an idea for a Supermassive kind of Until Dawn style Scream game. I've been saying this for at least 10 years. Please contact me. I will help you out on that. I'll do anything I can for you. Please think about it. I don't care if it's just giving me a copy. If you do it, I will do anything. But yeah, guys, like, subscribe, comment, share us out. Hell, grab your friends or family's phone, subscribe to us for them, so we can just reach out to them. Maybe they fall in love with us and tell their friends and do the same things that you did. Yeah, that's what I have for our Until Dawn review. I'm sorry that it's kind of rough and kind of off the top of the head, but I wanted to get something out to you guys since we didn't release a podcast last week. But keep an eye out tomorrow. We got an episode coming for you. And also watch out for a review for Sinners. All right, see you guys later.